One day you're going to look at your life and realize something that will make your stomach drop. You were not lazy. You were not confused. You were loyal to the wrong version of yourself. You kept forcing a life that was already dying, a relationship that was draining you, a career that looked respectable but hollowed you out, habits that made you feel like a man in public and a coward in private. And the worst part? You knew. You felt it in quiet moments, in the drive home, in the mirror, in the way your chest got tight when people asked, "So what's next?" Most men do not lose their lives in one dramatic collapse. They lose them slowly, by staying where they have outgrown, by calling fear wisdom, by calling delay being realistic, by calling exhaustion adulthood. And then one day they wake up 40, 50, 60 and realize they did not build a life. They maintained a cage. This is not a video about being passive. This is not sit back and wait. This is not an excuse to stop acting. It is about the cost of forcing what no longer fits, and the discipline it takes to stop lying to yourself when life has already been warning you. Because sometimes the strongest thing a man can do is not to push harder. It is to admit, this path is killing me, and rebuild before it is too late. There is a kind of pain that comes from hard work. That pain is clean. You feel it when you are building, stretching, sacrificing, becoming. But there is another kind of pain, a heavier one. It comes from living out of alignment, from spending your days earning things you do not even respect, from performing a life that looks stable from the outside while your inner world is starving. So they stay busy. They fill the silence with noise. Another plan, another promise, another Monday. Because movement feels safer than truth. You can waste years like that. Not because you are weak, because busyness is one of the easiest ways to avoid your soul. It is easier to answer emails than answer yourself. Easier to grind than grieve. Easier to chase money than face the fact that you became someone you do not even admire. And that is where regret begins. Not at the funeral, not at retirement, not at the breakup. Regret begins the moment a man knows his life is slipping away and still chooses comfort over correction. That is the wound. You do not need more inspiration right now. You need honesty. What have you been forcing? What have you been holding together with pride, fear, and appearances? What part of your life only survives because you keep dragging it? A lot of men think the answer is to push harder, work longer, suppress more, become colder, show less emotion, outlast it. But sometimes your constant effort is not proof that something matters. Sometimes it is proof that it is dead. Think about that. If you have to manipulate, chase, beg, numb yourself, and betray your standards just to keep something alive, maybe it is not your future. Maybe it is your refusal to let the old you die. Men get trapped because they do not fight for their future. They fight for familiarity, the familiar misery, the familiar routine, the familiar identity, even if it is breaking them. Because at least they know who they are there. At least no one can laugh at the man who tried and failed. At least they can say, "I'm still working on it." At least they do not have to face the terrifying question, who would I be if I actually became the man I keep talking about? That question scares men more than failure, because becoming requires death. Not physical death, ego death, image death, excuse death. The version of you built around approval, distraction, avoidance, and low standards cannot come with you. So life starts sending signals. You lose energy. You lose peace. The thing that once excited you starts feeling heavy. You become irritated for no clear reason. Your body is tired even when you rest. Your winds feel empty. The room gets quieter and your thoughts get louder. Those are warnings. Life is showing you that your soul is no longer willing to fund the lie. And if you ignore the warning, the consequences get louder. What starts as numbness becomes burnout. What starts as misalignment becomes resentment. What starts as delay becomes collapse. That is why some men only change after the divorce, after the debt, after the panic attack, after the humiliation, after the woman they loved walks away quietly because she got tired of waiting for a man who kept saying he would change soon. Soon. That word has buried more masculine potential than failure ever did. Soon I'll start. Soon I'll quit. Soon I'll rebuild. Soon I'll get serious. Soon I'll become disciplined. And then 5 years pass. Then 10. And the man is still standing at the gate of his own life, telling himself he is thinking. Listen carefully. Thinking is good. Reflection is necessary. But endless hesitation is not wisdom. It is self-protection. There comes a point where overthinking becomes disobedience. A point where you already know enough. You are not waiting for clarity. You are waiting for painless change. And that day never comes. Change costs. Rebuilding costs. Discipline costs. But regret costs more. Regret is paying interest on years you can never recover. It is sitting with the knowledge that you had enough signs to change and chose the cheaper pain. Not because life has to be perfect, but because some friction is training and some friction is decay. You have to know the difference. If a path is hard but it makes you stronger, cleaner, sharper, more at peace with who you are becoming, stay with it. If a path keeps shrinking your soul, lowering your standards, draining your strength, and making you respect yourself less, stop glorifying endurance. That is not noble. That is self-betrayal. Stopping the wrong thing is not the same as surrendering your life. A man who stops forcing what is false does not become passive. He becomes available for what is true. When you stop wasting energy trying to save what was never meant to carry you, something changes. You can hear again. You can think again. You can feel what has life in it and what does not. Not every answer comes in a dramatic revelation. Sometimes it comes in contrast. What gives you clean energy? What leaves you ashamed? What kind of work makes you more present with your family? What habits make you feel solid in your own skin? Who are you after you keep your word for 30 days? Who are you after another 30 days of excuses? That is where rebuilding begins, not in fantasy, in evidence. You do not rebuild your life by announcing a new identity. You rebuild it by proving one. Wake up when you said you would. Train when you do not feel like it. Tell the truth when the lie would protect your image. Cut what keeps making you weak. Stay with the discomfort long enough to become trustworthy to yourself again. That is masculine peace. Not soft comfort, not escape, not pretending everything is okay. Peace is what starts showing up when your actions and your conscience stop fighting each other. A lot of men want peace without standards, purpose without sacrifice, respect without discipline, a second life without the death of the first. It does not work that way. The man you were meant to be is not hiding in a quote. He is buried under repetition, under compromises, under the habits you keep excusing because they are private, under the routines that make you look functional while keeping you spiritually weak. So yes, sometimes life will dismantle what you refuse to release. A job ends, a plan fails, a relationship breaks, a false image cracks, and in the moment it feels cruel. But many times the collapse is not life punishing you. It is life refusing to let you spend another decade in the wrong identity. There are men listening to this right now who already know what needs to change. You already know the habit. You already know the compromise. You already know the daily pattern that keeps pulling you away from the man you could become. You do not need another sign. This is the sign. Stop negotiating with the part of you that is destroying your future. Stop calling it just a phase. Stop calling it stress. Stop calling it how life is. No, some of it is life, and some of it is your refusal to live with standards. If you want a different life, you will have to become different in the dark. When no one claps, when nobody sees, when you do not feel motivated, when the old identity begs for one more day. That is where your next life is decided. And here is the strange thing. When a man finally stops forcing what is false and starts obeying what is true, he does not always get immediate results. But he gets something deeper first: relief. Not because the road is easy, because the war inside him changes. He is no longer split in two. He is no longer spending all day betraying himself and all night trying to recover from it. He is no longer using success to hide from emptiness. He is no longer asking the world for permission to become serious. He becomes quieter, cleaner, more dangerous in the right way, because now his energy is not leaking through contradiction. Real peace is not found by avoiding responsibility. It is found by carrying the right responsibility, the responsibility that belongs to your real life, your real calling, your real standards, your real name. So if life feels heavy right now, do not ask only, how do I push harder? Ask the better question, what am I still forcing that no longer deserves my life? Then ask the next one, what would discipline look like if I stopped performing and started becoming? Sit with that, write it down, strip the lie out of it, make it concrete. Maybe your first rebuild is your morning. Maybe it is your body. Maybe it is your finances. Maybe it is the secret habit you keep feeding. Maybe it is finally admitting that the path you are on is not hard because it is meaningful. It is hard because it is wrong. And if that is true, then do not waste another year trying to decorate a dead life. Burn the false script. Keep your word. Accept the cost. Build the man. Because one day this will all become a memory. And when that day comes, the question will not be whether life was difficult. The question will be this: did you keep forcing the wrong life until it buried you? Or did you finally tell the truth while there was still time to become who you were meant to be? If this hit you, do not just agree with it, use it. Pick one part of your life you already know is out of alignment, name it. Cut one lie, set one standard. Make one move today that your future self would respect. And if you are done wasting years, write this in the comments: no more delay. not for motivation, for decision. Because the cost of staying the same is not just pain, it is the man you could have been.